Okay, what you're looking at is a walnut log, roughly 20 inches long. Here I'm roughing it out. It's about 10 inches in diameter. I don't know how much it weighed. The bark was pretty thick, and the light yellow underneath the bark is pretty soft, and for my purposes is not what I want, so I need to get past that, but I don't necessarily have to get down to the walnut color of the entire log. Got it about where I want. I'm going to cut a tenon on the end towards the headstock so that I can chuck it up and shape it, facing off the end there. Now cutting the tenon. I have a measuring guide to help me figure out that I've got it exactly right, or about the right size. And there I just made it really parallel. So it's mounted in the chuck now. And you can see off to the right actually my steady rest that we're going to use here in a bit, but right now I'm just truing up the end, and I'm going to cut the neck of the vase, and I'm going to shape the outside of it here. I use a combination of a spindle gouge and my roughing gouge. Got it pretty well shaped the way I want. Now I've got to mark it here in a second for the cuts that I'm going to put in it so that I can rough it out. So I'm using a pair of dividers, or you might call it a compass, but it's just got sharp points on it, and I can score the wood with it. Now I'm going to use my parting tool. Well, there I'm cutting down the first part, and then the rest of this I'm using the parting tool to cut in following the shape, and then cutting down the bottom. The idea is to sort of follow the outside shape so that once you get done at the very end breaking away the outside, that the cut lines follow the shape. Anyway, I got it on the steady rest now. It's a Clark steady, or OK Spin Doctor, excuse me, steady rest. It's built like a tank. Also very, very heavy. You'll notice here that the camera angle changes a couple of times. I looked up the weight on my lathe, and according to the website it weighs 790 pounds. And when you say the angle of the camera change a little bit here, it's caused by vibration. I don't actually have it bolted down, but the vibration of it, like right there, caused the lathe to actually move. The camera's on a tripod sitting off to the side. Every now and then I have to kind of move the whole lathe back, which is not easy to do since it weighs so much. But anyway, I find it interesting. If you think about Tesla's theory on how he could build a harmonic device that could tear apart the world if he could just figure out the right frequency. It's, you know, we're moving 790 pounds around on the shop floor by a tiny little tool there that's causing vibration in a 18-inch or so long piece of wood. Here I'm drilling it out the rest of the way, so I kind of made room. I didn't want to move the headstock back on my lathe, so instead I cut that first part out by hand, and now I'm drilling down in. A friend of mine gave me an extension for a Forstner drill bit that's maybe, well, with the drill bit in it and everything else, I can get it to about 16 inches, and then if I extend the tail stock into the hole that I cut, I can get down to in this case, about 17.5 inches. I'm just kind of measuring to make sure that I'm getting exactly what I want. I don't want to go too deep because it really stinks to get to the bottom of a piece, and then when you're cutting it off, you end up with a funnel instead of a vase. Okay, so now I've switched over and I've got a hollowing bar. This hollowing bar came from Langer in One Good Turn. They were running a special on them a year or so ago where they were doing a 2-for-1 deal, and a friend of mine and I bought one together. Well, we bought 2 of them. The tool rest that I'm on, I bought from Trent Bosch. He made it, custom made it for me, and I think he actually includes something fairly similar to it, but it's nice because these pins you can move around. When you're hollowing like this, you can lever against it. You know, when you get 17 inches over the tool rest with this thing, that bar is like 1.5 inches thick, but anyway, you get 17 inches over the tool rest. It takes a little bit of pressure down at the end. The cutter that I have mounted in the end of the bar is a Raleigh Monroe cutter. I cut it off the handle that it was in and mounted it in there. So here I am taking the steady rest done. All the hollowing's finished. That probably took 3 hours or thereabouts, and now I'm just roughing out the outside. So what I did is I'm breaking away down at the bottom where the wood grain is not parallel to the shape of the vase. It's a little harder. You have to kind of hammer it out, use a chisel. Any places where you've got swirling grain from a branch that came out, you have to use the chisel more and kind of hammer it. But the idea that I'm trying to do here is create a texture on the outside. I'm going to paint this, and you'll see here in a bit when I get done. I'm going to paint the outside of it with a copper paint and then apply a patina to it. I find that a lot of people really like this, and this was made specifically to order for a customer, so that's why I did it. They asked for that specifically. See a lot of fuzzies on the wood. Although I leave it pretty rough, I do come back here in a bit with a pair of pliers and pull off most of the fuzzies here, and then I do it again a little bit later. At the end here, you're going to see me measure the depth of the vase one more time and measure the outside, and just to be sure that I don't go through the bottom. Again, I've done that more than one time in my life, so I'm pretty paranoid about it. So you'll see me do that, and then I kind of start using a parting tool to cut it off, and then finish it up with a Japanese pole saw. And in a second I'll show you the finished painted vase when this is done. And what we have here is the finished vase. It's 17 3/4 inches tall. The outside's been roughed up, painted with copper paint, and patinaed. It's had one coat of lacquer put on the wood itself. It still needs some sanding, but you get the idea of what it's going to turn out like. Thanks for watching my video. Have a great day.